Hello everyone, I'm Michael, and today, I'm going to tell you a story. What's one thing your partner doesn't know? Story 1. When we worked together, someone kept stealing food from my husband's lunchbox. He started deliberately packing more food. He assumed the person was stealing food because they were hungry and couldn't afford it. I found out who did it. She hated him and was doing it to try to piss him off. I told her if she did it again, I would make a big stink of it, but never told him because I didn't want to shatter his illusion that he was doing a nice thing for someone who really needed it. Update: I think I need to fess up tonight and let him know so many people who aren't me think he's a treasure. I may not fit in the house with how big his head is going to get after that though. Story 2. I rub her back when she's asleep because she makes happy noises, and I like to think it makes her have better dreams. I do also do this to the dog though. Story 3. That I don't need to read aloud. My girlfriend struggles with insomnia, but for some reason when I talk to her late at night, she passes out almost immediately. So whenever I read a book, I read out loud softly under the guise that it helps me focus. It works every time. Story 4. That I knew he was planning to propose to me, but I still acted surprised. Married 14 years now, still haven't told him. He is so proud of the idea that he managed to surprise me. Story 5. My wife thinks I always fall asleep next to her when we cuddle at night. We go to bed at different times, but I jump in for a few minutes to snuggle before she zonks out. I don't, I just fake it. But it makes her super happy, so every time I pretend to drift off and she has to wake me, and it makes her laugh every time. This has been going on for 9 years. She'll never know. Story 6. Whenever we get fast food to go, she enjoys eating the extra fries which have fallen out of their carriage and into the bag. I'm not really sure why she enjoys them so much, but whenever there aren't any, I drop a few down when grabbing my fries secretly and then give her the bag. It's been 8 years, haha. I always grab my fries last, and she's never noticed. Holy cow. After all of these comments, I'm definitely getting a burger and fries tonight. Story 7. I put no salt into his salt shaker he keeps on his table near his video games. He is notorious for oversalting his food and has high blood pressure. I've been doing this for almost 4 years now. He can't tell the difference. Story 8. When we were dating, she tickled my feet and I acted as if I wasn't ticklish. 13 years later, she will tickle them and be amazed I am not ticklish every time it tickles. I have to hide this forever. Story 9. Very early in the relationship, after the second date, his monitor broke right on Sunday. I knew he was an avid gamer, so I quickly bought a 27 monitor on eBay and told him I had that laying around. While he was on the way to me, I power walked through half the town to get it and quickly changed clothes because it was drizzling. He had low income and no money, and I didn't want him to feel like he's in my debt. We're over 2 years together now. Story 10. I try to give her the better half of life. If there are 2 pieces of pizza left and 1 piece is burnt, I'll take the burnt one. She gets the good piece. If I'm going to shower and there's 1 normal towel left, I will use a hand rag or something to dry off. She gets the towel. If there's that unwanted end of the bread loaf, I'll make myself a sandwich using that sad end piece. I'll then make her sandwich with the good pieces. I do this all the time for the smallest things. She never knows. I try to make her life better in those small ways. Story 11. If he's out of town, I go completely feral for the first 1 or 2 days. Candy for breakfast, falling asleep in the couch, beer with dinner on a weekday, clothes on the floor, recycling bag overflowing. Then I shape up. When he comes back, everything's back to normal. But man, does it feel good to be a sloppy pig sometimes. Story 12. When we watch movies together, we always snack. One of our favorites to munch on during the movie are the Sour Punch bites. She takes all the blue ones because I don't like them and they are her favorite. Always says how lucky she is that worked out like that. The blue ones are also my favorite, but she can have them. Story 13. He doesn't know just how excited I get when he gets home. I just love being around him. The dogs can hear the garage door open better than I can, so I use them as a sort of notification that he's here. But he also doesn't know how to shut the freaking kitchen cabinets. The number of times I've almost brained myself because I stood up and the corner of a door was right above my head is absurd. Story 14. She suffers from depression, and when she hits a slump, she feels like laying in bed and doing nothing. even though 99.9% of the time just getting out of bed and doing something, anything will make a dramatic difference in her day. So usually when she hits a slump, I'll manufacture some fake emergency that only she can help me solve. Like, hey babe, I think one of the cats has a scratch on his face, but he won't hold still for me to look. Of course, the cat is fine, but I just tricked her into getting out of bed and doing something. And that's always the hardest part. Story 15. My father-in-law got a bloody nose at our wedding reception because he thought it would be okay to grind his crotch on and whisper, "I've been dreaming of fucking you all night," to my mom on the dance floor. My mother-in-law saw the whole thing with many others, hence the bloody nose. I'm fairly certain my wife does not know. Story 16. Boyfriend has financial struggles, not because of anything he's ever done. His mother is mentally unwell, and his father can't work for various reasons. He's been the sole provider for his family since he was a teen and has to balance his job on top of being the top 5% in his university cohort to maintain 2 scholarships. He had to put his mom in a psychiatric hospital by himself when he was 19. He had no support from relatives except his grandma, who doesn't have an income herself but tries her best. He currently is raising his younger brother and paying rent for the both of them. He acts strong about it, but he gets financial panics very often. In comparison, my family isn't rich, but we're definitely lucky enough to be comfortable. My parents pay my tuition, but I still work part-time teaching because I don't get any pocket money and I also enjoy it. I'm a very frugal person, though, so a lot of it just gets saved up. So sometimes I secretly transfer some money into his account. I pretend to borrow his phone and delete the SMS notification off of it. He's never noticed. It's not a lot of money, but I like to think it helps him get a little bit of extra something. Story 17. My wife is the biggest softie for animals, and we have birds that nest right in a column on our porch. One day a baby bird fell out and she saw. Well, it ended up dying, but I buried it and told her that I saw the mama bird come down and get it. It made her day so much better that I haven't had the heart to tell her it died and probably never will. I also distract her whenever I see roadkill coming up, or tell her it was just a plastic bag or something. Story 18. That I know our daughter's Reddit account, and that I check in on her regularly. I feel deep, profound guilt about following her, because while I respect her privacy, I know that she has significant physical and emotional issues. She's at college out of state, and battles with clinical depression and an unusual and incurable chronic illness. And she really tries not to let on to the world when she's going through a rough patch. She'll make a comment or post something that lets me know that she's feeling crushed or broken, and I'll coincidentally reach out to her the next day and give her an opening to talk about anything that's bothering her. Most of the time it works, and she'll vent for a while and feel a little better. Some of the time, we just trade pictures of cats. Either way, she knows that she's loved and that someone is thinking of her. If I told my wife about this, she'd blow the whole thing up, and like a bull in a china shop, she'd make it pretty clear that she knew our daughter's account and immediately interject herself into her daughter's life so she could fix everything. I understand that, because my wife is brilliant and protective and only sees the world in black and white. But I also understand that my daughter has to fix her own life, and that she's doing it every day, but that it doesn't hurt to have someone text her out of the blue and tell her a dad joke and try and make her laugh while she's doing it. I wrestle with the idea that I'm simultaneously a bad parent and a bad husband because of this. I've been married for almost 30 years, and this is the only thing I've ever kept from my wife. I hate it, but it's a hole I dug for myself, so I have to sit in it alone. Story 19. I always make sure he is the best softest towel for him to dry himself after a shower. I make sure he gets the big cup so he doesn't have to get up to refill. I lie to him how much his medicine costs because I don't want him to stress. It takes me a month to pay it off. We buy a 3-month supply. I buy the best meat and chicken so his stomach doesn't have problems, and don't tell him about the price. So he just eats happily and with no stress. I pat every one of his shirts when folding laundry with my hand so my loving energy goes in it to protect him and for him to hopefully not have stomach ache that day. Story 20. He knows because I tell him a lot, but I don't think he fully understands how much I love and rely on him. I don't think he could know without being in my head, but I have pretty acute anxiety. I know enough about my anxiety to know when I'm freaking out over nothing, so I try to keep it mostly contained to my own brain. and keep the external freakouts to a minimum. Just his presence keeps me grounded and calm. He is my best friend and I don't know if I could have accomplished most of what I have without him. Story 21. That her mom called for her the moment before she died. When her mom was dying, she was in the room with her for almost 24 hours straight and left for 30 seconds. And I was there, and in those 30 seconds her mother died, but not before calling for my wife. I don't know if it will haunt her or not, but I just don't think it's something she needs to know. Story 22. He does not know that he was my teenage crush since I was 12 and I wrote so many beautiful poems on him. We have been married for 6 years and have a child together. I don't know if I will ever have the courage to tell him that I have always loved him. Story 23. How good she looks. She's in her early 40s and has had 2 children and gained the quarantine 15. She is so upset with her appearance, but she looks fucking amazing. I tell her daily how attractive she is. I can't take my eyes off her. She doesn't believe me when I tell her she's perfect. Story 24. My kid had made me a heart-type thing at school and wanted to give it to me. I told him it was great, but that I always get the stuff he makes from school. Instead, he should put my name on it 'cause she'll love it. He gave it to her and she melted. She's got it on the fridge and has been showing it off for 2 weeks to friends and family. She keeps saying stuff like, "It was so nice he thought of me and he spelled my name right and he's so sweet," and on and on. It'll just be me and a secret.